Hi and welcome back to Arno TV with your lovable host Arno, coming back to you with another video. Now today's video is going to be about the legendary Academy Studios. Now the Academy Studios should hold a huge place in the genre of extreme music, death metal, black metal, particularly in the UK. Now why I say that is back in the early 1990s, when death metal as a genre was exploding all over the world, was getting massive in Europe, around here, pretty much every band, regardless of what country they came from, tends to have recorded their albums in one of generally three places, which was Morris Sound in Florida, Sunlight Studios in Sweden, or Academy Studios, which was based in Dewsbury, West Yorkshire, where I grew up. And the studio was literally 3 miles from where I grew up. It was really close by. So when you were forming a death metal band and getting into all this extreme music in the early 90s, it gave you such inspiration that there was a studio literally up the road where a lot of the birth and the inceptions of some of the classic albums that came out around that time came out of. It felt tangible, it felt that something was in reach. It didn't feel impossible that maybe one day you'd record there and you'd record an album that would go on to be really successful. So when it came round to recording, getting to that point where you're ready to record your first demo, and you're full of piss and venom and you think you're brilliant, and that was my first introduction, actually going there to Academy Studios. And the original incantation of the studios was originally in a residential area in a place called Reform Street. So to look at the studio, you wouldn't have even known it was a studio. It was basically two terraced houses that had been knocked through into one house. So the downstairs of the house was like the live room where people would do their live takes, and then the upstairs part was the control room. So that was how it was all set out in there. So my first experience of going in there to record, I remember it being such a learning experience. The studio itself is run by a fantastic character called Keith Appleton, who's an amazing musician, an amazing studio engineer, an amazing keyboard player, and somebody that's inspired me in my life, and definitely taught me probably more about recording, how to approach a recording session than anybody else. So really thankful to have met him and been able to record at the studio and get to know him. But that first session, I remember, you think you're brilliant, and then you get under the microscope, and the red light goes on, and you realise you're not as good as what you think you are. So, that was such great memories, such a great learning experience. Mags, who was an engineer there as well, who's responsible for so many great records too. He got the best out of us. They both were amazing characters because they were taskmasters, didn't stand for no nonsense or anything, but always encouraged you and got the best out of you. So even when you weren't as good as what you thought you were, you still came out with something sounding how you wanted to hear it in your head, and consequently we ended up coming out with a great sounding demo that sounded so much better than a lot of other people's demos at the time, and that's purely down to them getting the best out of us and us being able to record in that studio and have the experience of those people around us who'd been responsible for recording and capturing and engineering some of the really great recordings from the early 90s. I mean, you think about the records that were recorded there. I mean, Principle of Evil Make Flesh was recorded there, Vampire was recorded there, Pentecost Free by Anathema, and that's an interesting one because that's not only the first time that I met Anathema, but I was there when that was being recorded, and having that studio and on your doorstep, and just being able to go there, and you know, when these bands were rolling through town, amazing. You know, that's still to this day one of my favourite recordings by theirs, because I just sat there and watched it all being recorded live in the room, and it's, you know, great memories. Little known fact on this one, actually, Mas, who's the guitar player and singer in my band, and Jan Perez, who used to be the guitar player for Cradle of Filth, they're the ones that are singing on 666. So, you know, if you didn't know that, you do now. So, you know, so many great memories of that studio, the people that I met there, the albums that came out of there, the bands that recorded it, you know, there. I mean, you know, PL, Cradle of Filth, My Dying Bride, Anathema, Balsagoff, you know, the list goes on. So there's so many people that listen around the world to those bands, those early albums, and they were all recorded just up the road, you know. So amazing to think about it, and very inspirational, and a place that inspired me. And you know, it had two sort of incantations. As I said, the original one was a terraced house in a place called Reform Street, and then it did actually get moved to a different part of town, which is where we, Blasphemer, my band, recorded our proper albums, not the demos we did in the 90s, but the ones that we've done in the last few years. And ironically, our drummer, Dan, he was the in-house, he's now, you know, the in-house engineer at Academy Studios. So, you know, look at all the things that's happened just from all of us going to that studio. I mean, Dan was telling me the other day about the first time he went there in his school uniform to book studio time for. I hope he doesn't mind me telling this story, but I don't care. It's my channel, so I'll tell it. Anyway, he was telling me that the first time he booked studio time there, he went in his school uniform and went to the wrong door, because there was two doors on the original one downstairs. The left one was the actual entrance to, you know, the room upstairs, not the live room downstairs, the control room. That's the words I was looking for. And he'd gone in the wrong door, and you turn around, there's some guy there going upstairs, and that was Paradise Lost recording Gothic. So that, you know, that was amazing. And another thing that maybe people don't know, Keith, who runs the studio, played the keyboards on that, because he's such a great keyboard player, and he keyboards on it. And you know, he's the one that laid that down. So, you know, there's people around the world that, you know, listen to that guy's keyboard playing, and wouldn't even know it was him, but it is him. So, you know, I can't believe that nobody's ever made a video about Academy Studios, and it really should be given much higher regard, much higher praise than what it does. I'm happy to make a video about it, so I hope that you've enjoyed this video. You know, any of those bands that I mentioned, if you sort of look at those early albums that they put out, you'll see where they were recorded, and that's where they were recorded. So, you know, fantastic memories, and you know, go check out those early albums from those bands, and hopefully you'll hear some fantastic stuff. So I'm going to wrap this video up now. You've been watching Arno TV. My name's Arno. Hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell, because that'll help grow the channel. But for now, you all take care, stay rock and roll, and make sure you stay safe out there.